What's up, y'all? It's your girl Roxy with Roxy Says, and we're going to talk about it. Today, we are reviewing episode 1 of the Golden Bachelorette. I am so excited. You already know if you were here for the Golden Bachelor, even though that turned out to be a little bit of a hot mess, we had a time, okay? We had a time, so let's get right into it. But before we do, please don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that you hit that notification bell so that you are made aware every time I post a new video. I have missed y'all so much. Let's go. But first off, let me give you guys a little bit of background about Joan before we get started. So she was one of the contestants on the Golden Bachelor first season. Okay, she is 61 years old. She has 4 children and 3 grandchildren and a dog. And she was actually one of my favorites from last season. I really felt like her and Gary were good together, but unfortunately, Joan had to leave early because her daughter had a tough pregnancy and a tough labor, and she really needed her mom. And Joan left to go be with her daughter, which I totally understand, but they brought her back, okay? And Joan is so excited to find love. So Joan tells us that her and her husband, John, were married in 1983. She was 20, he was 21. They had a beautiful love story, raised beautiful children, and they were married for 33 years. And Joan describes it as the best 33 years of her entire life. Unfortunately, John was suddenly diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. She says that he lost a lot of weight, and it was really hard for her to accept that he was dying right before her eyes. So of course, this was extremely heartbreaking for Joan and her family. And she has a huge family. Like I said, she's a mother, she's a grandmother. And Joan says that although no one will ever be able to replace John, and he will always hold a special and a huge part in her heart, at the tender age of 61, she's ready to find love again. So we see Joan pull up to the mansion looking amazing. One thing about Joan from last season, even when she was at Gary's wedding, when it comes to the dress, when it comes to the hair, oh, Joan don't play. Oh my gosh.
You look absolutely stunning. Oh my God.
Joan is gonna step every single time, okay? So I'm just gonna run through these guys because like I said, it's 24, it's 24, and we don't know who's gonna be here past episode 1, okay? So let's get into it. First up, we have Pascal. He is 69 years old and he is from France. And Pascal has me cracking up during this episode. We'll get into it, all right? Next up, we have Kim. He is a 69-year-old retired Navy officer. He's from Washington, and he hopes that by wearing his uniform, it tells Joan a bit about his character. Kim lets us know that he is divorced, and unfortunately, his second wife passed away after 8 beautiful years of marriage, and he is ready to find love again after being alone for 6 years since his late wife Mary's passing. Next up, we meet Chalk, and he brings her his famous Chaka noodle soup because he heard that Joan makes a great chicken noodle soup. I thought that was a cute gesture. Joan tries the soup. She says it's delicious. He makes a great first impression, and he tells her maybe when he gets to the hometown visits, he can make his Chaka noodle soup for the family. I'm like, all right, Chalk, real confident. I like that. Next, we see Jonathan. Okay, Jonathan shows up wearing a blindfold, which makes sense because he later tells Joan that when his wife wanted a divorce, he was blindsided. Now, listen. Whenever I hear a man describe his wife filing for a divorce as him being blindsided, I gotta give a side eye. I'm sorry. I gotta give a side eye because usually what they mean by blindsided is even though she asked me a million times to help more around the house, even though she asked me a million times to help with the kids, even though she asked a million times to go to marriage counseling and I said no, and then eventually she just stopped complaining. I thought everything was fine. So when I got the divorce papers, I was completely blindsided. Not saying that's Jonathan's situation, but I've seen a lot of situations like that, okay? But we'll see. But the real reason why he wore the blindfold is because he said that he connected with what Joan said when she was leaving last season. And she says that in this world, at their age, sometimes she feels invisible. People don't see her, people don't value her. And Jonathan said that he really connected with that. He told her to lift the blindfolds when she's ready to see him. It was a cute moment, but I got my eye on Jonathan. I do. And Jonathan has 2 kids, okay? So next we meet Jordan. Jordan is 61 years old, and Jordan is clearly very nervous.
One thing that,
Thank you very
for
much.
sure, I am really impressed by your selflessness. That's kind of the reason that brought me here.
And he tells Joan that he really admired her leaving in the previous season to be with her daughters because he is so close with his family. He has 3 daughters, and he says that he would have done the same thing, and family is extremely important to him. Next, we meet Michael, we meet Thomas, we meet Dancing Gary, okay? Then we meet Greg, Pablo, and Bob. And then we meet Jack.
And so I face the final curtain, my friend, a life that's full, I've traveled deep.
And baby Jack comes out singing, okay? He's just singing, and immediately I was like, okay, we got a character here. We got a character here.
I really think that she'd like it. And that dress she's got on, freaking hot.
Next, we meet Charles. He's 66 years old, and he has 2 daughters, and he says that he's been extremely lonely for the past 6 years after the sudden passing of his wife. He says that him and his wife were married for 36 beautiful years, and his daughters really want to see him happy again. And Charles says that he hopes that if he just beats himself, Joan will like him and everything will work out in the end. Next, we have Guy. Guy is 66 years old. He is an ER physician. And I might be wrong, but this seems like the first guy that had Joan like, he's kind of fine. And she also said it to his face. She told him that he is handsome. Now, we did see her say that some of the previous guys were handsome, but she said it like in a confessional or after they were walking away. I think Guy is the first person that she said it to his face, like, ooh, you handsome. I said, okay, Joan. And I immediately felt the chemistry between the two of them. They were just talking and could not stop smiling at each other, all right? Next, we meet Charles K., and he put on a show for Joan.
Hello.
I got it.
Oh, hey.
That was impressive.
Yeah.
And between Charles and Jack, I was cracking up this entire episode. But Charles is not playing. He wanted Joan to know that he still got it, okay?
This guy's doing freaking push-ups on the floor. It was phenomenal. That son of a bitch is in great shape.
Next, we meet Ken. We meet Dan.
Dang, girl, look at you.
Right back at ya.
We meet Christopher with his prune juice. We meet RJ. We meet Gil.
Ah, you're good.
We meet Bill. And Jack is just in his confessional talking about everybody coming in. We see that all of the men are sizing each other up, but in a very friendly and a wholesome way. And they pretty much all agree that Joan really has her work cut out for her because these men seem to really have their ish together on paper, but so far they seem to really have it together. Next, we see a guy named David. He rides in on a horse. He's a rancher, and he is 68 years old from Texas. And he wanted Joan to ride the horse, but the horse already galloped away, okay? That horse, he said, y'all only paid me for 2 hours, okay? It's 2 hours and 10 minutes. I gotta go. Y'all not paying me no overtime. That horse was gone, okay? And it's so funny because all of the guys were just in the corner laughing and giggling. Such a cute scene. Next, we meet Keith. He's 62 years old, and he seems to be full of life. And he says that he's pretty much been the sole parent for his 3 daughters for the past 12 years because he had to leave his ex-wife because of her battle with addiction. And he says that he really just needed to give his daughters a sense of stability. And I can only imagine how hard that must have been to have to leave someone that you love and you care for because they are battling a crippling addiction. So next we see Joey come out and, hold on. Okay, let me say this. If this is your first time here, I don't know what my issue is, not anyone else. I have an issue with Jesse's name. In the beginning of the review, I will start off by calling him Jesse. By the end of the review, his name is Joey, Jerry, Gary. Please forgive me if I don't know what it is, why I keep messing up Jesse's name. I'm gonna try to get it right this season, okay? So next we see Jesse. He comes out and he tells Joan, see all these J's. He tells Joan that she has one more man to meet, okay? The limo pulls up and a woman comes out, and it is Kelsey. Kelsey is Joey's fiance from the last season of The Bachelor.
Good to see you. You look, I was coming out of this limo, walking up to Joey. Yeah. So surreal to be here.
And all the guys are looking around. They're like, wait, is that a girl? Hold on, what's going on? We didn't get this in the memo. This was not in the email, okay?
So I have someone that I would like to introduce you to. I'm excited. Look at here.
And child, we see Kelsey's dad step out the limo. I'ma just say this, Kelsey's dad is fine, okay? That is a silver fox. So his name is Mark, and he tells us that unfortunately his wife passed away in 2018, but she did give him her blessing on finding love again. And while this scene is going on, just the way that they lined everything up, I'm like, look, if he doesn't end up with Joan, he is going to be the next Golden Bachelor. So now we've met all of the men. They're patiently waiting in the mansion, and Joan enters to greet all of them.
Look, there she is.
So it's the first night. You know everyone is going to be vying for her attention because they all want to get that first impression rose. And as soon as Joan is done with her little speech, Pascal from France swoops her right up and he's like, hey, let me talk to you for a second, okay? So a little bit more info about Pascal. He is from Paris, France. He currently lives in Chicago and he owns a beauty salon and a med spa. He says that he has the house he wants. He drives the car he wants. He's done pretty well for himself. And now all he wants is a woman to share his life with. Their date goes very well. Pascal reads Joan a letter that his son wrote to him, and he definitely has a way with words, and I can tell that he definitely has a way with the ladies. I know Pascal, when he was younger, he was ripping and running. He don't gotta tell me, I know. I can see it, okay? He is very smooth and very charming. And there's a funny moment back at the house when all the guys are talking and Pascal tells them, you know, maybe y'all have to prepare. Y'all got to get y'all words together. I don't need to prepare, okay? I'm not new to this. I'm true to this.
Pascal said we don't need to prepare.
I mean, it's up to you. I don't say you don't need to prepare. I don't need to prepare, but you may need to prepare.
In order to get the words.
Pascal is just too smooth, and he also tells the guys that he goes back to France at least twice a year so that he can keep his French accent fresh. He is a character. And I must say, I am loving all of the side conversations that the men are having. They're talking about their children, their grandchildren, their life changes. They're saying that a lot of their children are starting to parent them now. They're just having the cutest, most wholesome conversations, and I'm loving every minute of it. Next, we see Joan go on a date with Dan. He says that his daughter signed him up for the show, and one of Dan's daughters is adopted. And as he's speaking about his love for her, he starts tearing up. You can truly see that these children are his entire world, and he seems like such a sweetheart. Next, we see Joan go on a bunch of other fun dates, and she seems to be having a great time with all of the guys. Then we see her go on a date with Jordan, and he is determined to make a better impression than he did the first time because he knows he was extremely nervous. He got tongue-tied, and he is really beating himself up about it. So he gives Joan a gift, and they play pickleball. It's a really cute date, and I think that he redeemed himself. Then we see all the guys come out and they just all start playing pickleball. It's a really cute scene. But while the guys are outside playing pickleball, we see Jack. He's just roaming around the house. He's like, this is nice.
This place. I mean, we got the freaking pool. It's unbelievable. Look at this. It's almost like a hippie den. Now we got about 72 candles up there.
And then we see Charles, and he's just mesmerized by the kitchen.
Oh, this is real. Nice. It's real nice. Super. Fantastic. See? Oh, lots of meat. Everything.
Next, we see Joe. She's on a date with Kim, and he tells her how much he wanted to meet her when he saw her on the show last season, and he is so excited to be there. Then we see Joan go on a date with Bob, and Bob tells her that he was struck by lightning, and he was dead, pretty much. And he had to get CPR performed on him for 12 minutes until he came back to life, so he's hoping that lightning can strike twice, just in the love area with Joan. I thought that was cute, kind of scary, but cute. And next, we see Joan go on a date with Guy. Now, remember, I felt like the chemistry was strong when she first met Guy, but I didn't get the same vibe on this date. It didn't feel the same, but we'll see. Next, we see Joan go on a date with Mark. They have a great time, and you can see that there's a spark there. Next, we see Joan go on her date with Jonathan, okay, Mr. Blindside. So listen, before the show aired, I was speaking to the ladies in the group chat because I was looking for, clips of the show, previews of the show, and in every preview, Jonathan was in the thumbnail. Jonathan was in the thumbnail and he was in the video. So I'm like, is this going to be Joan's guy? But I know in previous seasons, y'all said that The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, the Golden Bachelornation is known to show a lot of clips to have us think one thing, but then it's really not. So I don't know, but I do feel like we'll be seeing a lot of Jonathan this season. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm excited, okay? So on this date, Jonathan tells Joan that when he saw her recite a poem to Gary at the talent show last season, and she won the talent show with that, he knew that he had to write her a poem. And she's like, okay, let's see it. And he's like, oh, it's not written down. He's gonna recite it from the heart.
Standing here in front of you. So now what do? Be your man, take your hand, and blessed to see you in that dress.
beautiful. You are good. You do have a talent.
And he had this adorable dimple right here. I'll remember forever. When he smiled, he's very, very cute.
Okay, Jonathan, I see you. And it definitely makes an impression on Joan. She looks smitten, okay? So next we see Jesse, and he brings out that first impression rose and he puts it on the table. So all the guys are like, ooh, I hope I made a good first impression, child. I hope I ain't going home tonight. Meanwhile, Jack is in the kitchen chefing it up. When I say chefing it up, okay? And I ain't talking about green eggs and ham.
Whenever I do anything, it's got to do with cooking, and it always has.
Looks good.
So I'm hoping, Joan,
When would it be ready?
I'll let you know that.
I'm in it.
He is making a whole meal, and Charles is in the kitchen eating. At this point, I said, you know what? These two seem to be more impressed with the house than with Joan. Put them on a game show to win a house, because I feel like that's what they're really here for. So when Jack finally arrives to his date with Joan, he has 2 plates of food in his hand, and my jaw dropped. It really did. I was like, oh, he better get a first impression rose. He better get the first impression rose, because this is a first impression. He came out the car singing, and then he cooked an entire meal for her on the very first date. Ooh, I'm loving Jack right now. He cracks me up, but the food was really the cherry on top. Joan absolutely loves the food. And next we see Charles come out, and he made her tea, which is perfect after that hearty meal she just had. And then after the tea, Christopher comes out and he gives her some yummy chocolates. Perfect for dessert, a perfect way to finish her meal. Listen, Joan ate good that night. In the beginning, someone brought her chicken noodle soup, right? She ate really good that night. So next we see Chalk go on a date with Joan, and he was getting a little nervous because it was getting late and he didn't get to spend any one-on-one time with her, but they do have a beautiful conversation. They speak about their children. They speak about their families, their bucket list. They both want to go on safaris. And the way that Chalk is looking at Joan, it's almost like he has tears in his eyes, and not in a creepy way. It looks like he's already in love with her. It looks like he's already in love with this woman. And overall, the date goes extremely well. Next, we see Joan. She goes into the mansion. She grabs the first impression rose, and all of the guys are in the living room. And she's like, hey, I'm just going to grab this. And then she leaves. So they're like, okay, I guess we're not getting it. Then she walks past another group of guys who are outside, and they're like, okay, I guess we're not getting it either. And then she walks over to this guy. And in all honesty, I swear to y'all, I had no idea who this guy was. I was like, who is this? Who is this guy? I couldn't remember his name. I didn't take notes for their first date, but this is the man who made the best first impression on Joan. So I had to rewind. I had to go back and take a look at their date, because I really didn't know who he was. So here's a clip from their date, and they look like they just had a really fun, chill time. I'm sorry, Keith. Please forgive me. Joan says that she loved that he pulled up in the station wagon. Of course, that was nostalgic for her. She says that she enjoyed the conversation that they had. It felt very familiar. And speaking with him made her feel very safe. And Keith got a rose and a kiss that night.
You're so sweet.
Oh.
Period, Keith. So he is super excited, of course, and all of the guys congratulate him when he goes back to the mansion. Now, this next scene had me in my feelings, okay? Joan comes in and she rolls in a television and she starts playing videos from these men's children, grandchildren, mom. It was so beautiful. So first we see Pascal's son, we see Charles's daughter, we see Dan's daughter, we see Charles's son, Jordan's daughter and her girlfriend, we see Gary's daughter and grandson. When I tell you, I was tearing up to see these men get so emotional by seeing their family members. It was just beautiful. It was truly beautiful, but of course the moment of joy and love and tears was short-lived, because now it's time for eliminations. And of course, everyone is extremely nervous except for Keith. Keith is off to the side like, I don't know about y'all, I got my rose. So Joan is giving out roses, and of course, every time someone's name isn't called, they're in the confessional and they're like, oh my God, what did I do? Did I not make a good first impression? Should I have said this? Should I have not said this? And then we get down to the last few roses, and Joan has to step out. And Jesse comes to her and he's like, hey, is everything okay? And Joan feels horrible because this is an extremely hard decision. She doesn't want to hurt anyone. And she knows exactly how this feels because she was in that exact position last season, okay? She knows how it feels to leave your family to come do an experience like this and to have to go home. So she really empathizes with all of the guys there, and she reminds them over and over that even if they don't make it through this round, they already won being here. They're already an inspiration. And like I said in the previous season in The Golden Bachelor, I love that these people are here. I love that they're doing this show. The numbers don't lie. The show did extremely well. And it's because we want to see people find love no matter the age. The Golden Bachelor, even though Gary and Teresa got divorced or whatever, it was still a very inspiring show. And it still gave people hope to know that life isn't over just because your spouse passes or because you get a divorce or because you're over the age of whatever. I love this show for that. I truly do. I truly do. But anywho, now it's time for the final rose.
Jack.
And baby, when Joan said Jack, the way I jumped up out of my seat and started rooting like I was at a basketball game, I was so happy for Jack, because if Jack did not get a rose, I would be starting the Justice for Jack hashtag, because I truly believe that with everything he did on that first night, there's no way that he should be going home. So I am happy that he got his rose, okay? So the men who are being sent home, of course, say their goodbyes to the other guys and to Joan. And the men who made it, toast and cheer, okay? Let the games begin. Now, let me tell you, I am so excited for this season. The previews look very promising. We're gonna have a time like we did last season, okay? And in one of the previews, we see Gary asking Joan if she thinks there's a possibility that her guy isn't here. Gary, go home. Gary, go home to your little beach house that you was trying to have homegirl pay half your rent, half your mortgage, whatever. Go home, Gary. We don't want to see you. We don't want to see you. Okay, but that was episode 1. Tell me all of your thoughts below. Do you have a favorite guy so far? Do you have a least favorite guy so far? What are your predictions or your hopes for the season? I am super excited to be here watching it with you guys, reviewing it with you guys. So make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you hit like and make sure you hit that notification bell. Y'all already know how we get down over here. We have fun, okay? So I hope y'all all have a lovely and amazing weekend. And I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye.
Roxy says we're gonna talk about it.